Charmides by Oscar Wilde. He was a Grecian lad, who, coming home with pulpy figs and wine from Sicily, stood at his galley's prow, and let the foam blow through his crisp brown curls unconsciously, and holding wave and wind and boy's despite, peered from his dripping seat across the wet and stormy night, till with the dawn he saw a burnished spear, like a thin thread of gold against the sky, and hoisted sail and strained the creaking gear, and bade the pilot head her lustily against the nor'west gale, and all day long held on his way, and marked the rower's time with measured song, and when the faint Corinthian hills were red, dropped anchor in a little sandy bay, and with fresh boughs of olive crowned his head, and brushed from cheek and throat the hoary spray, and washed his limbs with oil, and from the hold brought out his linen tunic and his sandals brazen-soled, and a rich robe stained with the fish's juice, which of some swarthy trader he had bought upon the sunny quay at Syracuse, and was with Tyrian broideries inwrought, and by the questioning merchants made his way up through the soft and silver woods, and when the laboring day had spun its tangled web of crimson cloud, clomb the high hill, and with swift, silent feet crept to the fane unnoticed by the crowd of busy priests, and from some dark retreat watched the young swains his frolic playmates bring the firstling of their little flock, and thy shepherd fling the crackling salt upon the flame, or hang his studded crook against the temple wall to her who keeps away the ravenous fang of the base wolf from the homestead and from stall. And then the clear-voiced maidens 'gan to sing, and to the altar each man brought some goodly offering, a beechen cup brimming with milky foam, a fair cloth wrought with cunning imagery of hounds in chase, a waxen honeycomb dripping with oozy gold, which scare the bee had ceased from building, a black skin of oil meet for the wrestlers, a great boar, the fierce and white-tusked spoil, stolen from Artemis, that jealous maid, to please Athena, and the dappled hide of a tall stag, who in some mountain glade had met the shaft, and then the herald cried. And from the pillared precinct, one by one went the glad Greeks, well pleased that they their simple vows had done. And the old priest put out the waning fires, save that one lamp whose restless ruby glowed forever in the cell. And the shrill lyres came fainter on the wind, as down the road in joyous dance these country folks did pass. And with stout hands the warder closed the gates of polished brass. Long time he lay and hardly dared to breathe, and heard the cadenced drip of spilt-out wine, and the rose petals falling from the wreath as the night breezes wandered through the shrine, and seemed to be in some entranced swoon, till through the open roof above the full and brimming moon flooded with sheeny waves the marble floor, when from his nook up left the venturous lad, and flinging wide the cedar-carven door, beheld an awful image saffron-clad and armed for battle. The gaunt griffin glared from the huge helm, and the long lance of wreck and ruin flared like a red rod of flame, stony and steeled. The Gorgon's head, its leaden eyeballs rolled, and writhed its snaky horrors through the shield, and gaped aghast with bloodless lips, and cold and passion impotent, while with blind gaze the blinking owl between the feet hooted in shrill amaze. The lonely fisher, as he trimmed his lamp, far out at sea, off Sunium, or cast the net for tunnies, heard a brazen tramp of horses smite the waves, and a wild blast divided the folded curtains of the night, and knelt upon the little poop, and prayed in holy fright. And guilty lovers in their venery forgat a little while their stolen sweets, dreaming they heard dread Dian's bitter cry, and the grim watchmen on their lofty seats ran to their shields in haste to precipitate, or strained black-bearded throats across the dusky parapet. For round the temple rolled the clang of arms, and the 12 gods leapt up in marble fear, and the air quaked with dissonant alarums, till huge Poseidon shook his mighty spear, and on the frieze the prancing horses neighed, and the low tread of hurrying feet rang from the cavalcade. Ready for death, with parted lips he stood, and well content at such a price to see the calm wide brow, the terrible maidenhood, the marble of that pitiless chastity. Ah, well content indeed, for never wight since Troy's young shepherd prince had seen so wonderful a sight. Ready for death he stood, but lo, the air grew silent, and the horses ceased to neigh. And off his brow he tossed the clustering hair, and from his limbs he threw the cloak away. For whom would not such love make desperate? And nigher came and touched her throat, and with hands violet undid the cuirass and the crocus gown, and bared the breasts of polished ivory, till from the waist the peplos filing down left visible the secret mystery, which to no lover will Athena show. The grand cool flanks, the crescent thighs, the bossy hills of snow. Those who have never known a lover's sin, let them not read my ditty. It will be to their dull ears so musicless and thin, that they will have no joy of it. But ye, to whose wan cheeks now creeps the lingering smile, ye who have learned who Eros is, oh, listen yet a while. A little space he let his greedy eyes rest on the burnished image, till mere sight half swooned for surfeit of such luxuries, and then his lips in hungering delight fed on her lips, and round the towered neck he flung his arms, nor cared at all his passion's will to check. Never, I ween, did lover hold such tryst, for all night long he murmured honey word, and saw her sweet unravished limbs, and kissed her pale and argent body undisturbed, and paddled with the polished throat, and pressed his hot and beating heart upon her chill and icy breast. It was as if Numidian javelins pierced through and through his wild and whirling brain, and his nerves thrilled like throbbing violins in exquisite pulsation, and the pain was such sweet anguish that he never drew his lips from hers, till overhead the lark of warning flew.